All right, and we're back for another edition of the Department Podcast, as always, with Justin Valentovic, Stephen Clark, Joe Palantonio, and Jesse Norman. We're back a day later, but, because some wrestling happened last night, so we took care of that. But we're doing our Week 3 recap of the NFL season, and we're doing it after Monday Night Football, other than, the typical Sunday Night Football. But I'm kind of glad things worked out perfectly to shift it a day, because we had a much-anticipated game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. We'll definitely get into that. And then we'll go through the rest of the week from Sunday Night Football all the way to Thursday Night Football. And then we'll look at Week 4. But, guys, what's going on? How's it going?
Feels good.
It's going well.
Feels good, man. Can't wait till we talk about that Chiefs-Ravens game. So excited to talk.
I love all the energy coming from you guys. Like, wide awake. Come on, wake up a little bit. It's only 11 o'clock, 11:30 almost.
Justin Valentovic, it's 11:30 on a Monday night.
Come on. Oh, yeah, because you have school or anywhere to go. Come on, we're all unemployed here, basically.
You want me to get crazy? I'll get crazy if you want me to get crazy.
You might have to a little bit. And you do online school, Jesse. That doesn't really count.
Still have to be there at a certain time.
It counts.
That's true. Joe, how's it going?
It's going good. Early wake up this morning. Back at Sports Drive again tomorrow. Got my usual call-in spot on Brave New Radio 88.7 FM. North
all right,
Jersey,
well.
So.
What a plug. Wow.
Well, with that being said, let's jump into to Monday Night Football, actually, with the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Baltimore Ravens 34-20. And this game was a lot different than I anticipated it to be. It wasn't the Rams-Chiefs games from, 2 years ago, where it was like 100-plus points in the game. No one expected that because both teams have a relatively good defense. But what the score was, yes, it was only a 14-point deficit for the Ravens to lose, but the game was a lot further apart than it looked. Like, the game was more of a blowout than the box score shows, honestly. Because
yes, it was.
The Ravens couldn't get the offense going until really the third quarter, and their defense was just getting picked apart by Pat Mahomes. It looks like Clark running a defense on Mutt squads.
Whoa!
Anything he was running out there would get absolutely torched. That's what the Ravens defense honestly looked like. And quite frankly, if this is what the Ravens are going to look like against the Chiefs right now, I don't know if anyone could stop that in the AFC.
Yeah. As much as I want to give no credit to Lamar, how Lamar played horrible and the whole Ravens played horrible, you got to give credit to the Chiefs defense first. I think the defense stepped up more than anything in this game and just figured out a game plan to stop Lamar. Lamar literally couldn't do anything. Nobody played well at all. And I give the credit to the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. This is almost a carbon copy of the Ravens-Titans game that we saw last postseason, except this was 10 times worse. It was an embarrassment on both sides of the ball. I think defensively you have to have some answer for Patrick Mahomes. The problem is that it's not that Baltimore didn't have the bodies. I think they were trying to go too blitz heavy. Obviously, that's what they do, but it's just not going to work against Patrick Mahomes. They have the bodies to cover all five guys they put out wide. The defensive scheme just didn't work for me. And on offense, it's the same problem that we saw against Tennessee. The first drive, they were cooking, they were running the ball, it looked great, and all of a sudden they completely abandoned it. And they just tried to rely too heavily on it's not even taking shots downfield. It's the intermediate routes. It's the 5-yard dump off passes that they have Lamar do. And that's not how you win games. That's not how anyone wins games. So I think coaching wise, Baltimore got embarrassed. This was the best game I've seen Andy Reid coach as a Chief. And I think that we've seen him coach some beauties in his day.
Than the Chargers playoff game, for Lamar's rookie season, was that 2 years ago? This was probably his worst passing game of his entire career. 15 of 28 with 97 yards. Yeah. That's not good. But at the same time, it's not saying he's a terrible quarterback, because we saw him last year absolutely light up the league with his arm. So maybe this is more of a blip on the radar rather than
Lamar is a top three. Lamar is a top 3 quarterback, but he's number 3.
For sure.
And the fact that anybody said number 1 is an absolute joke, because the number 1 quarterback in the league doesn't do that on primetime football. Yeah. And there's a reason Mahomes hasn't done it and Wilson hasn't done it. As far as I'm concerned, there's a gap. And Lamar is very good, and he's very talented. But when you ask him to just pick apart the defense on through just coverages and you don't just rely on that run game, it starts to fall apart. And we've said all the time about the one knock on the Seahawks and Russell Wilson is that they run the ball too much. Well, the knock on the Ravens is if you make them not run the ball, Lamar falters. Because Lamar is a great passer and he's very accurate. But also it helps when everybody's not dropping back into coverage and he can pick apart. Because when you're dropping 7 back, Lamar struggles a lot.
Well, and also it doesn't help when, you have multiple receivers drop wide open passes. Mark Andrews dropped a gimme touchdown basically in the end zone that would have, given Lamar another 30 yards or so. But then at that point, 127 isn't anything great either.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that he went under 100 yards and they weren't running the ball is laughable. Like that is an absolute joke. At the end of the day.
They absolutely couldn't do anything. And it's what Tennessee did, and it's what Kansas City will continue to do until they come up with something about it. It's that they send those 2 rushers at the edge. And Lamar cannot handle it when the protection falls apart. His scrambling ability, it's not what Mahomes is. Mahomes may not be the speed or the talent that Lamar is, but we do have to remember, as Jesse said, Lamar can throw the football. Lamar is capable of throwing the football, and this is what's going to be the narrative now, is that he can't do it and that he can't perform. But I think it's entirely how Seattle falters with Russell Wilson in big games. It's the reliance, it's just throwing away a game plan that works. And it's what the entire offense is built around. It's built to run the ball on first and second down, and the third down, play action, give it to Mark Andrews. That is perfectly executed Baltimore Ravens football. But when number 1, Mark Andrews doesn't catch the ball, and when number 2, on first and second down, it's ineffective screen. There were so many plays. Baltimore was 3rd and 6. You can remember specific ones when the play call, Lamar dumping it off to either Boykin or Hollywood Brown, 3 yards short of the first down marker. They're not doing anything to take a shot down the field.
Well, and let's also recognize the fact that Baltimore's special teams gave them a touchdown. And they still got blown out. I mean, the offense looked anemic. When you look at 20 points, that's not Lamar scored 20 on them. 7 of that was the special teams.
Their defense could not stop anything Eric Bieniemy was throwing at them at all. It seemed like they were completely off balance. Everything that Kansas City did, they had absolutely no answer for it. And, I mean, a lot of that goes to the fact that Eric Bieniemy, Andy Reid called the best game I have seen them call with Kansas City.
Well, and also on the defensive side for the Ravens, they never hit Patrick Mahomes. He never got sacked. Yeah, he took a few shots here and there, but he never got brought down for lost yards. Lamar got dropped 4 times. Yes, 4 sacks isn't a lot, but when you're getting hit and you can't get the ball, the passing game moving, that really is discouraging, because then why are you keep dropping back if you're going to get hit and you can't even complete a pass either?
Yeah, no, for sure. But one last thing I want to take away from this game is at the beginning of the season, the Ravens were known to have the easiest schedule in the league. And this was, in fact, their hardest game of the season. They could win out the rest of the season. They play the Browns twice in the season. They play the Bengals twice in the season. They have the AFC South in the season. They have a lot of easy wins. But when the games start to matter in the playoffs, are we going to see this Ravens team we saw right now on Monday Night Football? Are we going to see that team in the playoffs again? I surely think we do.
Well, the thing is, too, this very well could decide home field advantage in the AFC Championship game, if Kansas City's 1 and Baltimore's 2, because then at that point, you're going to Arrowhead, and Arrowhead's letting in a lot more fans than Baltimore is, and that could be a deciding factor even right then and there.
If the Ravens make it to that point to face the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and before we because Kansas City deserves all the praise, before we put them number 1 in the Super Bowl, and number 2, talk about how this is this unbeatable force. This was the first big game Kansas City played where they did not trail early and by a good margin. The first big game they have
I think
played
this is the
since
first game that they've taken seriously since the Super Bowl.
Well, this is the first game they really had to take
That they-
seriously.
yeah.
Exactly. They didn't have to.
I was talking about the playoff run. Yes, they
Yeah.
won, but they were down early. The Chiefs
I
got
still
a
don't
big
think they
lead.
even cared about that. Like when they were down 20 to the Texans, there were still money line bets that the Chiefs weren't the favorite.
And all that matters is the end result, too. It doesn't matter if you're losing by 20, 30 points. All that matters is the end. You get the W.
I think it shows that if they prepare for the Ravens, there's no chance the Ravens can beat them.
And at that point,
eventually there's going to be a game where Kansas City gets behind when it's insurmountable. I don't think that's that unreasonable, but you guys are all going to kill me for it. So
I mean, yeah, that's fair. But
It's fair, but
it's the thing of when they actually game plan for a team. This game should have been 40-14. Like,
well, the thing is, too,
this game was out of hand from the start. They actually game planned for the Ravens and they destroyed them.
Well,
they made their offense look terrible.
They're eventually going to lose a game that they can't come back for. But right now, I really don't see anybody that could hold them, to win if they get a significant win. I just don't see anybody.
They're going to lose a game here and there, obviously. Everybody does that in the NFL.
Yeah.
But they've proven already they are the team to beat in the AFC, and they proved it again tonight. And now the Ravens get to go on a nice 3-week vacation because they get to play Washington, the Bengals, and the Eagles before they have to play the Steelers. So they're going to walk into that game, looking fantastic. But that's the next actual challenge we see for the Ravens. And, I mean, we'll have to see how it goes because they're going to walk in 5-1.
And seeing how the Steelers played this week, hey, you might not even
the North isn't a gimme either, but at the same time, I'm not writing the Ravens off yet because I still think they are better than the Steelers.
They have the North on lock.
I
wouldn't say on lock, but they're definitely it's good.
Don't get me wrong, they're gonna get into the playoffs.
It's good. It's
but I also think people are really undervaluing how good the Steelers are at 3-0.
But they also really played really bad this week too.
Well, we'll get back into the Steelers.
They played bad for.
We'll get back into the Steelers in just a little bit. Any last thoughts on this game before we move on?
Mahomes
Chiefs are the team to beat.
Mahomes the best quarterback in the league.
Mahomes is top 2. I don't know if he's 1 or 2, but Lamar is definitely 3.
Agree.
Joe, you got anything?
I think that you play this game 10 times. I don't think it ends up in a blowout every single time. I think this was rare. I don't think it's going to happen again if they face in the playoffs.
Ravens looked like they were in the playoffs.
All right, well, switching to another matchup we usually see in the playoffs one way or another. Sunday Night Football, we have the Green Bay Packers taking on the New Orleans Saints. And my biggest takeaway from this game initially, it doesn't matter who Aaron Rodgers is throwing to because they will catch anything and he will rack up yards. And also the main game plan for the Saints seems to be get it to Alvin Kamara and hope to God he breaks as many tackles as humanly possible. And that's how they're going to run their offense because that's how it really seems after this game.
Well, yeah, at least until Michael Thomas comes back. But we'll see. We'll see what the timetable is on that. This just showed me really Packers have the North pretty much already clinched. The Vikings are not a good team, period. I'll start when we talk about that, about how much Kirk Cousins just drags that franchise down so hard. And they're paying him $35 million to do it. And, the Packers are still a good team because they have Aaron Rodgers and they play in a pretty bad division that I think the Bears aren't for real in. So lock up the North for me.
Yeah. This is what happens when the Saints quarterback Drew Brees is getting a little old out there and not looking as good as he used to. Can't sling the ball downfield like he used to. Got to always hand the ball off now, which is almost worse.
See, it's fine to the extent that Sean Payton is doing a very good job at hiding Brees' arm. Getting the ball to Kamara for 13 times, being able to run the ball with Kamara, being able to use Latavius Murray, being able to use Taysom Hill, in different situations. They do a good job in hiding Brees' obviously aged arm. But the problem is when you have 13 passes to Kamara and then your next receiver is Emmanuel Sanders with 4, you're not really able to push the ball downfield then, because then teams can just double Kamara, and then really who's Brees throwing downfield to at that point?
Well, Emmanuel Sanders has to appear at some point. I mean, he has been really kind of embarrassing.
I agree.
In his time with the
it doesn't
Saints.
help that Thomas is gone, because they did bring Sanders in to be a number 2.
Well, and that's
and
the
he's
thing.
now trying to play number 1.
Now with Thomas being gone, Kamara is almost then their number 1 receiver, but at the same time, you can't take him out of the backfield because he's also still a really good runner. So that's where they're going to have to split, targets to carries and which one's more valuable to that team.
That's why also Kamara is the best healthy running back in the league right now, without a doubt. Without a doubt. He just puts the whole team on his back and runs to the end zone. He's the reason why the Saints stayed in this game to begin with.
Now, being able to game plan around Kamara and run the offense through Kamara, it's a good enough bandage until Michael Thomas comes back. Simple as that. It will
come back in a few weeks anyways.
That's the thing. They just have to bide their time until Kamara gets back. I mean, not Kamara, Michael Thomas, because at that point, it's all systems go again with the Saints, and they have the number 1 receiver.
Yeah, and the South is bad. It's bad.
It's a 2-horse race.
Yes.
We'll get into it. The Falcons, they're a miserable team. Panthers are in a rebuild. It's really just the Bucs and the Saints, and then at that point, and with the expanded playoffs, both teams will get in. It's just a matter of seeding then at that point.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that I think Sean Payton's finally going to get this, is that if you're going to take Brees out from under center, don't put Taysom Hill. You have Jameis Winston right there. If you really want to give Drew a breather, or you want to throw something else at the defense, Taysom Hill under center is not the answer. It's a joke. It's upsetting. It's hard to watch at times. Jameis Winston is there. If you want to take the long shot downfield, if you have to, you don't think Drew can do it. I think that's the key here. And I mean, if Aaron Rodgers continues to play in stadiums with no fans, he's going to keep doing his fun free play nonsense, and he's just going to do that.
That is not a knock to Aaron Rodgers. That better not.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not. He's just going to keep doing it, and that's going to be
That's
it.
the thing.
It's smart.
The best thing he's good at is getting someone to jump off sides and take a shot downfield. And playing in a stadium that's historically loud, like the Dome in New Orleans, you rip fans out of there. It's a big different environment at that point because you don't have the home field advantage at that point.
Yeah, that's just the discipline of the defense. You that's basic stuff you learn on day 1 of training camps and all that.
Also, the Saints, they really need Jadeveon Clowney because they have no form of a pass rush whatsoever. Marcus Davenport, he's not good. They just other than Cameron Jordan, who's just didn't really do much if he's even playing. I don't know if he's hurt or not. But even then, they're just not getting to the quarterback. And then at that point, the Saints defense is almost regressing to what they were, a few years ago, where they were just non-existent and couldn't stop anything.
Yeah, they've been absolutely dreadful, and I think what that goes to show is just how really weak Tom Brady and the Buccaneers looked week 1. Because wow, I mean, now we see Derek Carr. I mean, it's one thing Aaron Rodgers, but last week we saw Derek Carr really pick him apart. That's a tough look for Tampa Bay.
Well, Tampa responded this week. They did pretty well this week. So,
well, any last thoughts on Sunday Night Football?
Nah.
No, I think I mean I was really shocked about how good the Packers played on defense, but there has to be some answer for Sean Payton. He's got to figure something out and quick.
Yep.
Jesse, got anything?
No, I think the Packers are better than a lot of people gave them credit for.
All right, cool.
Sure.
Well, let's shift gears to the 4 o'clock window. And quite frankly, a lot of these games were just painful to watch and brutal matchups. But the most appealing and interesting one was the Seattle Seahawks winning 38-31 over the Cowboys. Now, it's not panic time yet for the Cowboys just because of how weak the South is. But on the flip, not the South, the East. On the flip side of things, Russell Wilson continues to prove now for a 3rd week in a row why he's one of the best, if not the 2nd best quarterback in the NFL. And the Seahawks are a special team offensively now because, they used to be the ground and pound Seahawks, but now they're letting Russell cook, as people are saying, and he's torching defenses downfield.
He's so good.
Yeah, he throws such a good deep ball. And if DK Metcalf doesn't get that touchback, this isn't a game.
No,
the
it's
game
not.
is over.
But
So they looked even better than what the score says, and
Yeah,
they put up 38 points.
But things happen in a football game, so you can't put that into the final score like
Because
that.
Metcalf made the typical boneheaded play that we see every 3 to 5 years, basically. It's true. You see it every once in a
True,
while,
it's very
and you look,
true.
you go,
No.
oh, look at this idiot, and it happens again.
Yeah, but my point is the Seahawks looked even better
Then
than the score shows,
Yeah.
and the Cowboys were worse. Like, the Seahawks touchdowns were on wide open plays. Nobody on the Cowboys covered Tyler Lockett the whole night. Like, I don't know whose assignment it was supposed to be, but they didn't show up.
Yeah.
Because he had so many open touchdowns. It's insane.
If the East wasn't such a non-existent division as it is right now, you know, I'd be ready to write the Cowboys off as, you know, barely a playoff team just because the defense is reminiscent of how bad it was when they had Tony Romo. Like when they with, you know, DeMarco Murray, when it was just offense, no defense, can't stop a nosebleed. But the East and the division being as poor as it is saving them right now, because otherwise 1 and 2, it's time to panic because when they've looked bad in their losses. And quite frankly, you know, barring the Falcons going full Falcon and their brains turning off in the last 30 seconds, you know, you're looking at an 0-3 Cowboys team then.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious that the Cowboys don't want to pay Dak. Like, they're acting as if Dak is the issue. But Dak is the only reason they're even somewhat in this game.
Dak's thrown for like 300 yards back-to-back games.
450
Yeah.
back-to-back games.
Yeah.
But they don't want to pay him. I don't get it. Like, what more can Dak possibly be doing?
And their
because
defense,
Zeke's doing nothing.
And their defense has gotten worse because you let Byron Jones walk. Sean Lee is just non-existent. Jalen Smith is, you know, a good linebacker, but then on the flip side, you lost Leighton Vander Esch, so there goes another linebacker. The only thing keeping them in, like, check is Alden Smith actually having 5 sacks and somehow being a relatively good pass rusher after taking 5 years off.
With that being said, they got absolutely no pass rush on Wilson almost the entire game. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence and Alden Smith are both there, and the Seahawks line is, mediocre at best.
But it's funny because it's probably the best offensive line that Wilson has had in his tenure in Seattle too.
Yes, but that still does not make
it still doesn't make it good.
I think at best it's top 20. Like you're hanging, you're not good. It's not a good line. There's no Pro Bowler on that line besides maybe Brown 3 years ago.
No, it's not good.
The Cowboys. It's crazy that the Cowboys had no pass rush, considering how flawed this line is.
The crazy part about all of this is the division is just wide open. It's just wide open.
Yeah, for the East, because the Eagles can't even beat the Bengals. They can't even win. Giants are complete mess, and Washington
Redskins did not look good.
You know, Washington is somewhat like they can score and they have a relatively good defensive line. But now Chase Young is hurt, so now I don't even know what to make of them. Like, it's the Cowboys' division to lose, and right now they are actively trying to lose that division.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes to show Dak Prescott has gotten better and better and better every single year. And I think he's going to continue to thrive. And I like it now that Jason Garrett's gone, because at least I think that the play calling is a little bit better.
They're letting him throw.
But on defense, though, the Cowboys were overmatched. I mean, yeah, I guess they kind of did stop the run. They kind of did eliminate, like,
that
Chris
aspect
Carson
of
got
it.
hurt. But yeah,
He got hurt, exactly.
But they did take away, like, that whole thing. But the problem is that that's what the Seahawks, you know, their own worst enemy is them calling the run so much, and you get rid of that, bada bing, bada boom. But this is what does scare me. It's like Seattle is 3-0, an easy 3-0. But those last 2 games were super close, and they just always play these nail-biters. It's fine if they win, but, like, it's a lot every single week.
I don't call the win against the Patriots an easy 3-0. Patriots are.
It came down to the goal line.
Patriots are a
stop,
legit team.
They're a legit team, Joe.
I'm sorry. That was the point I was trying to make. That yes, they are 3-0, and it looks like an easy 3-0.
Okay. I know what you mean.
They're not having a
Yeah.
cakewalk 3-0 like the Bears.
No, I agree with you,
Yes.
Joe. Okay, I agree.
Yeah, I agree there.
Feels good. That really.
Oh, and also Adams was hurt for a part of this game and wasn't on the field in the last drive, or I believe last 3 drives.
Last couple, yeah.
Yeah, last 3 or so.
Yeah.
Jamal Adams, who is the best player, I think, at this point on the defense, I would put him over Wagner.
The best safety in the league still.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal for Seattle, and they beat the Cowboys without him for the last 3 drives.
At this rate, Seattle's showing that they might be the team to beat in the NFC, and Russell Wilson is clearly on an MVP campaign. It's as simple as that.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
So the only 4 o'clock game that really has any other talking points are the Bucs beating the Broncos 28-10. And really the only talking point is it seems like Brady and Leftwich and Bruce Arians are finally getting on the same page offensively, and they're clicking. And Tom Brady loves Leonard Fournette.
Look,
And
if
Scotty
there's
Miller.
if there's a team to get your offense back on track of, it's against Denver.
Yeah.
They are not a good team. They're not well coached. I don't know why Fangio got the job. I truly don't, because Fangio, whenever he's been given a big opportunity, has never really worked with it. And I don't know why they had a young quarterback in Drew Lock who did get hurt, and now Jeff Driscoll is starting. I have no idea why they tied him to Vic Fangio.
Soon to be Blake Bortles, too.
Yeah,
They signed him. So
so
we could see Bortles Darnold this week on Thursday Night Football.
What a
Yeah.
matchup.
Denver.
Wow.
Oh, and their one saving grace of Cortland Sutton is hurt and on IR. Melvin Gordon doesn't
Is also hurt,
good.
I think.
Of course he is. Melvin Gordon's
Yeah.
always hurt.
He's always-
There was no reason for signing him.
Also-
They already had Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. They're not a very good front office. I don't think John Elway is a good GM. I think he's really ran his course, and I really think he's holding them down at this.
Bring
They'll
back,
never-
bring
they'll
back
never-
Tim Tebow.
He's Mr. Bronco. They'll never get rid of Elway, so it doesn't matter.
Elway is poison to that team.
Oh,
He is.
absolutely.
He
Besides
is.
bringing Peyton Manning in, he has done absolutely nothing but hurt them.
Also, Chris Harris got IR before, so there's another.
Great.
Okay.
There's another defensive guy
Not
down.
Chris Harris is on the Chargers now.
Chris
Never
Harris,
mind.
Chris Harris
Irrelevant.
got traded.
Doesn't matter.
Still, he's
Okay.
Well,
still there.
Von Miller's also out.
Yeah.
If we said that before.
Yeah, but the Bucks, they're riding the ship, no pun intended, because they're pirates, but they're fine. Brady's fine. Gronk, he's just here to block apparently now, so it doesn't really matter.
Pump the brakes. We just spent how long tearing down the Broncos, talking about how terrible they were? I mean, at least 3-4 minutes, right? So, no, don't put stock in this, at least that much stock. If
I
you're,
think that's fair.
a Buccaneers
I'm not
lover.
going to.
I mean, all the things you said about the Broncos are true. They've been true for the last 3 or 4 years. The Buccaneers are still not a proven team, and they won't be proven until
it wasn't just a win.
New Orleans, sorry.
That
New
wasn't just a
Orleans.
win against the Broncos. That was a dominant win.
It was
You
the
gotta
Broncos.
give credit.
It
You gotta
doesn't-
give credit where credit's due still. Like-
yeah, sure, I guess.
They
But
looked.
I think there's a couple teams in the NFL that, like, it doesn't matter when you play them. I'm gonna say this about the Colts Jets game.
Yep.
Like, honestly, throw it out. It doesn't matter. They're
it doesn't
playing the
accomplish-
Jets.
It's a
Like,
fluff game.
you're playing Denver.
There are certain
It's
games.
only a problem unless you start to not dominate those games.
When
The
Brady
minute
throws for 303 touchdowns, you gotta give him some sort of credit.
Yeah, that's
Well,
great.
also, 2 of those
Cool,
touchdowns
but-
came at the goal line to
Goal
Mike
line.
Evans.
Cool.
twice.
They drove down to the goal line. Cool.
Yes,
That's
on
a
the
good team.
Broncos' anemic defense that has absolutely, like, nobody on it right now.
Oh well, that's what happened in
All
the
right.
NFL. Injuries happen.
That's enough of the
It
Broncos.
didn't matter if injuries didn't happen.
Oh.
This is not. You don't look at this
It's
game.
hard to get a win on any given Sunday in the National Football League. You have to give credit where credit is due.
If
That's all I'm saying.
Tampa is supposed to be this good team, these are the games they're supposed to win. I'm not
Yeah,
going to
if
give
And
them
Tampa
they
a
beats-
did.
pat.
And
I'm
they
not-
did. And you're not
yeah.
giving them credit. And
I'm
they
not going to
did.
give them a pat on the back for beating a terrible Broncos team. I'm
A
not going to.
win's a
Oh, good
win.
job! You're Super Bowl favorites now because you
If-
I'm
really
not
gave
saying
it.
that.
You gave it to Jeff Driscoll.
No one said Super Bowl favorites. I'm just saying give them credit for having a win. That's
If the
it.
Eagles beat the Giants twice this year, are they a legitimate team?
No, but they beat the Eagles beat the Giants twice. So you said good job, Eagles. You beat the Giants.
On the flip side, things the Colts also are 2-1 after being an illegitimate football team, 36-7 over the Jets. Not really much to matter. Adam Gase needs to get fired. Sam
I want
Darnold
us
looked
to
bad.
make a rule now. We're just if you blow out the Jets,
Don't
it doesn't matter.
Well, that's the
Adam
thing.
Gase has the most double-digit losses in the NFL.
You're acting like Sam Darnold is he's a good quarterback in a
No, he's
bad
not.
system.
Yes, he
He's
is a
been
good
failed.
quarterback.
He has been failed. He has been failed and failed and
By the
failed.
system.
So hard.
By the
Yes,
system.
by the organization. It's a poverty franchise. at
Another
this
thing,
point.
give credit where credit's due. Like, the Colts defense was insane.
Yes, cool,
Insane.
Great. Jets have no skill position
The
players.
Jets were running practice.
The 49ers dogged the Jets with Nick Mullins. It doesn't matter.
The Jets were running
it
out of
just
practice
doesn't.
squad at receiver. Their offensive line is deck chairs and lawn furniture, except for Mekhi Becton, who what a great pick.
And got hurt, though.
They're there for a reason, those players. That's all I know. They're there for a reason.
Moving along to another.
They're only there by default.
Moving
I can
along
promise
to
you
it.
that.
There's not much more to talk about on the Jets-Colts game, so move along to the Panthers getting their first win for Matt Rule. Yay, good job versus the Chargers. Justin Herbert looked like a rookie. It's going to happen.
Bad.
They asked him to throw 49 times.
Sucking off Herbert last week.
Herbert looked fine. I still don't think he's as good as Burrow, which he shouldn't be.
By a
He
long
was the
shot.
6th pick. Burrow was the 1st. He made rookie mistakes more than Burrow has.
But we're willing to forgive Herbert because guess what?
But
He's a rookie.
here's the problem. The problem with Herbert is that he made rookie mistakes against a defense that is non-existent. That's the red flag from this game.
The Panthers' defense is abysmal. And the only good player they have in Dante Jackson got hurt in the game.
But yet again, he's a rookie. It's his 2nd game. Let's see how he does from here on out.
And they're still not even fully committed to him.
And you know
they
what's
even
funny
said
too?
before the game, as soon as Tyrod can play, we're going to play Tyrod.
You know what's funny too with this last point before we move on? Herbert looked worse in a full week of time to prep than a spot start against the Super Bowl champions 2 minutes before the game started.
I said this. The Chiefs didn't game plan for
Exactly.
Herbert. That's why he looked so good. Everybody was like, oh, well, he looked so much better than Burrow. Burrow was the day 1 starter. The Chiefs went into the game 5 minutes beforehand thinking it was Taylor, and then it was Herbert. It's an entirely different thing.
Yep.
Burrow, Herbert, it doesn't matter. The best rookie quarterback is in Miami.
Well, we can't say that yet. We haven't.
Can't say that yet. I haven't seen him yet.
Because he's sitting on the bench behind like a 40-year-old. So
Can't wait to see him.
So, final game in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll take, a few minutes to talk about this, and we'll move on, take a break, and come back with the 1 o'clock games. The Detroit Lions somehow getting a win against the Arizona Cardinals. Okay.
I'm going to say this. I think Detroit is not as bad of a team as people think.
They are a poorly coached team, though, is what makes them horrible.
I don't know if they're necessarily a poorly coached team. They're not greatly coached. But what else is out there that's going to be better than Matt Patricia?
No,
I don't
agree.
know if there's that much. Realistically, they should be sitting at 2-1 right now if DeAndre Swift just literally doesn't drop the ball. The Lions are not a bad team, and they're a team that I don't think a lot of teams want to play. They're stacked at receiver. They have interesting running back core now with Swift there and Kerryon Johnson. Stafford's an underrated quarterback. Hawkinson looks a lot better in his 2nd year, which I thought he would, because tight ends take an additional year usually to really get better. And the defense is serviceable. They can squeeze out games.
yeah, and Kyler Murray did not look too hot in this game either. I hate to say it because I love Kyler Murray. I do a lot. But when you're putting up more interceptions than touchdowns, man, it's not going to get the job done.
I also Arizona, and I was very high on this guy coming into the year, but Kenyon Drake's got to show something because they really haven't gotten him going whatsoever.
Well, because they have an offensive line that's more built for moving the pocket, running with Kyler, as he scrambles, pass blocking for extended plays, improvising, and not really a run blocking scheme. That's what the air raid offense is chucking the ball downfield.
Yeah. I don't want to read into this too much because I think the Cardinals and Lions are a lot similar. Arizona's not head and shoulders better than Detroit and just dropped a game here. This was a close game, and I think it's fair. Both of those teams should be contending for wild card spots. I don't think Detroit is necessarily as bad as, the consensus is on them.
I think Arizona is a team that could benefit from more designed runs. It feels like they're just so devoted to the air raid that they forget that Kyler Murray has legs sometimes. I mean, it would be nice to see him take off a little bit.
Or little stubby legs.
And we saw him have a great run and juke out a defender, to get in for like a 5-6 yard run. Like he has the capability to run, and he's small enough that he can be a shifty, running back-esque quarterback.
And I was high on the Lions preseason. And I still think that they're a very talented team. The problem here is that we talk about the running back situation, and this is going to be the key to them, is they have three running backs on the roster, and Adrian Peterson is getting 90% of the carries, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
It's counterproductive. It's like the Jets running out Frank Gore. It's counterproductive. Nothing really matters. But with that being said, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll break down the rest of the 1 o'clock games and then look at Week 4 Thursday Night Football, which is a very unappealing matchup. But don't worry, we'll be right back. All right, and we're back to the second part of the Week 3 recap here on the Department Podcast with Justin Valentovic, Stephen Clark, Joe Palantonio, and Jesse Norman. It's basically Tuesday morning now, because last night when we were almost done with this part of the podcast, my internet crapped out as usual, and we didn't have a backup recording, so the whole thing had to get scrapped. So we're restarting the 1 o'clock games. So we'll just kind of go through quickly the games we went through, just because it kind of sucks to rehash old points, kind of like we know that from our TV days a little bit. It's not the same, but we'll still hit on the main points from each game. Then we'll keep going to the games we didn't cover in the original recording, and those will probably be a little more interesting, I guess. Who knows? Yeah. But let's start with the Bills and the Rams. The main point from this game is Josh Allen got bailed out by the refs. Simple as that. And I still don't know if he's good or if he's bad, and we'll be discussing if he's good or if he's bad the whole season. And even at the end of the season, we still won't know if he's good or bad. Simple as that.
Well, yeah, that's what I said last night before the recording got poo-pooed. No doubt about that. I mean, as we said, we don't want to rehash it too much, but as we said, the Rams look really, really good this year. They look quick. They got the speed back. They're going downfield with much more efficiency than they did last year. And I think they're going to put up 70 points against the Giants next week.
Yeah, like I said last night as well, Josh Allen is the best, worst quarterback in the league. You can never tell if he's having a good game, if he's having a bad game. His mind is split right down the middle to make dots right down the middle of the field or just throw an interception. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Josh. I don't know if he's good or not, but hey, they're getting the job done. So good for them.
He's young Brett Favre, basically. Just Brett Favre was known as the gunslinger. Honestly, Josh Allen's the gambler because he'll just take any play possible, good or bad, and just chuck it downfield and sees what happens. And if it pans out, he looks great. And if it doesn't, man, he looks like a boneheaded idiot sometimes because his decision-making is not what it is. But I'll give him credit to this point. Adding Stephon Diggs has really helped him develop in the mid to deep pass game because he has a reliable receiver that's not Josh Brown or, Cole Beasley. Like, he has a legitimate one now with Stephon Diggs there.
Yeah, but again, I really want to hit on the fact that the Rams got screwed over by the refs. It was like 4th and 7, and it was a terrible pass by Allen. I'm not even sure who it was to on the play, but the receiver was very clearly both the receiver and corner were going at it for the whole time down the field. And the flag came in late. It was bad. It quite literally decided the game.
And, last point, Allen can make all the throws he has to, but we've seen it where it's on a second attempt if, there is a flag that kind of bails him out and lets him mentally reset that play. Like, he gets a lot of second chances. Like, he's honestly the only quarterback I can expect or, think of other than maybe Cam Newton who will rush for a few yards and get pulled down for a face mask and get bailed out and get extra yards on the run that way because he likes to run.
He likes to run too much. I think people think Josh Allen's a much more mobile quarterback and better runner than he actually is. He's he's a worse scrambler than Mitchell Trubisky is, but he just has higher volume of carries because they let him do whatever he wants. I don't really think he's that good of a scrambling quarterback at all.
He's just big.
He's just big. But yeah,
I mean, I'm not
it's
comparing
pretty
him,
unfortunate.
I'm not comparing him to Cam Newton, skill-wise, but build-wise, they're very similar.
Yeah, except Cam's much faster and way more athletic.
No, I agree, but he sees that, and he sees how Cam's a bigger quarterback and can use his size in the run game, and that's similar to what Josh Allen tries to do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Josh Allen, not sure if he's good or bad. Rams got shafted by the refs. That's basically that game. Moving on, 2 things out of the Bears-Falcon games. 1, Dan Quinn needs to go, and 2, Mitch Trubisky's time in Chicago is all but over, barring an injury to Nick Foles. The Trubisky experiment didn't work, and honestly, the Dan Quinn tenure didn't work either because it's just another crippling blow. They blew another lead.
Mitch Trubisky and Dan Quinn have kind of similar paths in a way. They both had that one semblance of wow, good coach, good quarterback, and then things that maybe weren't in their control, either the 28-3 blown lead by Shanahan's play calling or the double doink happened. And since then, both of them just have not been the same. And we're just watching the decline of two football legends in Mitchell Trubisky and Dan Quinn at the same time. And I don't think we're going to see either of them retain the same success or even become a head coach and a starting quarterback ever again.
Now, here's the problem with the Chicago Bears, right? They're a fluff 3-0, an easy 3-0. The 3-0 is not real. Say Nick Foles goes out there and lays the egg, right? A few games in a row. You can't go back to Trubisky then at that point. You're tied to Nick Foles now, barring an injury.
Yeah,
Foles is also making more money.
Yeah, so might as well play the guy that you're paying more. No, I agree with that. But
well, and they traded for Foles. Let's never forget that Winston was out there. Cam was out there. There were multiple quarterbacks that were out there that took 1-year deals, and they traded for Nick Foles' contract. So they had to have seen something in him to trade for him with that massive contract that he has.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, it's sad. It's just sad. It's just all sad around because the thing I look about here with these two teams is there's so many generational talents on each side of the team. You have Khalil Mack on the Bears. You have Julio Jones on the Falcons. And they're just getting wasted. Their talents are just honestly just getting wasted in these two organizations. And it's really sad because Julio could honestly be, if not a top 5, one of the greatest receivers of all time.
And that brings me up to one of my last points with this game.
Yeah.
The Falcons' offense is clearly not the issue. It is the defense.
No.
And Dan Quinn was brought in to be the defensive coach to fix the Falcons' defense. And he's done nothing but honestly made it regress even more than what it was when he found it.
It's never been the issue. It really has never been the issue. And I mean, call it just playing in a dome, playing in that division. But even when the Falcons were peak Falcons, they have never had a good secondary.
Yeah.
I don't think at any point in my memory, it's always been kind of open season.
They had a high potential secondary that was never as good as people thought it was when they had Desmond Trufant and Keanu Neal, because they were supposed to be the new Legion of Boom, and they were at best a top 14 secondary. I mean, the Seattle Legion of Boom was literally a top 1. And they thought they had something with, some decent young players that never really developed the way they were supposed to. And that's on Dan Quinn. You can't spend this many first-rounders on defenders and develop pretty much none of them.
And, you look at some of the important ones that they brought in with high draft picks, Vic Beasley gone, and just other, a few other ones like
Desmond Trufant gone.
Yeah, they're just
Keanu Neal, a shell of himself
because of injuries. It just didn't work out. And with that being said, it's time to move on from Dan Quinn. Arthur Blank, a very good owner. He'll probably, out of respect to Dan Quinn for what he's done for the Falcons, give him the season to finish it out and not make him a lame coach. But there's no way in hell he should be back next year.
No, I think there's no chance he's back next year, barring a ridiculous comeback.
Because you got to think this is a division that's like within grasp, not this year, but
usually
over
within range.
Over the next 2 years, the Saints and the Buccaneers are both going to be on the decline. Like, this is going to be a winnable division long term. You have to secure the coach now.
And the Falcons' core, of Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, offensively, they're young enough that they can be together after the Breeze and Brady's leave.
I have a bombshell.
What?
The Titans and the Vikings are suspending in-club activities after 3 new Tennessee players and 5 new personnel test positive for COVID-19.
First break.
That's the first breakout.
Yeah, that's
because
Mike
we saw
Garafolo and Tom Purcell.
Because we saw AJ Terrell on the Falcons put on the COVID list, basically, and that was just a single player. That was easy to contain. But now, if a whole team is broken out, the NFL built a schedule in a way that they can move games around and it work out, sort of. But both teams would have to be canceled. So I don't know who the Titans played, in week 4, but if they can't play, I don't know how they're going to manage this.
No bye week, maybe. Somehow.
Yeah, this would almost have to be their bye week.
Yeah. You gotta rearrange your schedule then too, somehow. I don't know how. I don't know. The people that do that, because that's very complicated to do that, because then the team they're versing probably does not have a bye week the same week, and then it's just a whole.
They should have created a better security blanket.
Yeah.
Maybe an extra week between this season and the playoffs. Push the Super Bowl back. I mean, we all could use it on President's Day weekend anyway. That's always kind of been a thing. Or just you might have to settle for one less game.
I thought they should have given every team 2 bye weeks at least.
Yeah,
I think that should have been another thing. Because figure you could use it.
They can afford running late because the NBA, is going to be in the beginning of the regular season by the time the playoff starts around, because they're not starting on time. The NHL isn't starting on time. MLB's done. There's no point in playing the Pro Bowl, especially this year to begin with. Anyway,
no.
Cancel that, move that back. They should have had some more plans in place. And we talked about it earlier on earlier podcasts. It's going to be business as usual for the NFL until something comes up, and they'll hope to God it just goes away and they can figure it out, because that's the NFL's mindset.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just, we don't know. We just now at this point
it's the waiting game.
We need to find out how long the Vikings and the Titans are going to be shut down for, because protocol says 10 to 14 days. I believe is what the CDC recommends. So we're talking about 2 weeks, and then they can come back, and if they're not fresh, we could be thinking about injuries. I'm concerned.
It's a mess.
And it's bad. The Titans play this week at the Steelers, or home to the Steelers.
Not anymore.
Yeah. So that game will probably be postponed, but who knows what the hell they'll do at that point, because then it's almost unfair to the Steelers to bring in another opponent and have them either travel somewhere else or have a team travel to them and they weren't preparing for it.
The only way I could think is if a team is supposed to be on a bye week this week and they play the Steelers later on in the year, and they accept terms to play the Steelers this week and swap buys later on. But they didn't plan for this, which is not smart, because we're not even talking about a week now. It's supposed to be 14 days to be safe. That's 2 weeks. That's 2 games.
Yeah.
And we saw with the MLB how just the Miami Marlins having a COVID outbreak ended up having a ripple effect that affected like 8 different teams. Like if you just trace like how many lost games and had to make up. And so, the fact that at least MLB had built-in off days, they had the ability to switch things around, because it doesn't, like, the opponent doesn't really matter, like, number one, strategically, and number two, because there's so many games that, like, you could just, like, flip them around and everyone was playing the same teams. Yeah. This was, we kind of hoped that it wasn't going to happen, but kind of now that we see it happen, we're kind of
knew
like,
it was, and we knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
The last thing on this, they should have, looked at the MLB and took notes. Simple as that. they had plenty of time to prepare for this.
Or do a bubble like the NBA too.
There were too many players. They just
do 4 locations.
I agree.
They would have needed basically a division by division bubble. The East and the East, the North and the North, the South and the South, and the West and the West.
How much money would that have cost?
The NFL has the money.
The NFL has.
Yeah, but they're not in the business of spending.
Oh no, it's just building up the bank account.
Well, I mean, since we're talking about the Vikings-Titans, do you guys want to hit on that game? Because
may as well.
I'll say this: the Vikings are not a good football team, and it's because of Kirk Cousins, and they're paying him $35 million a year to make them actively worse. And he's not a good quarterback. He's not a good quarterback in prime time. He's a good quarterback against really bad teams. But sure, I guess I could be a really good quarterback against bad teams when I have Kyle Rudolph, Adam Thielen, and before Stephon Diggs. They've tried to give him other first-round wide receivers. Didn't work in Laquan Treadwell. And, Justin Jefferson looks great, but, in a loss. They have a running back in Dalvin Cook. They have a decent offensive line. And for whatever reason, they're sitting at 0-3. And you know why? It's because of Kirk Cousins. Because he is mediocre. He's a poor man's Alex Smith.
You know what's funny, too? On the flip side of the ball, too, Tennessee has Ryan Tannehill, who the Vikings basically hoped Kirk Cousins would develop into. A guy who's kind of wasted away, on another team, comes in, and he's the savior, if not just a borderline franchise quarterback, and he'll win you ball games. Tannehill is happily throwing the ball downfield and thriving in Tennessee's system somehow. But meanwhile, you look at Kirk Cousins and just nothing. And the two teams are built very similar.
Yes, they both gave up the same amount of points, basically, too, which is showing how odd their defenses are too, because like you said, Jesse, Kirk Cousins isn't good. And for him to still throw up 30 points against the Tennessee defense, which was in the AFC Championship last year, is I don't know if that says something more about how good it could be, the Vikings offense, or how bad the Tennessee defense really is.
I think across the league, all defenses have struggled for the most part. Yeah. There's not a dominant defensive team that I can even look at. Even the top 5 defenses let up a lot of points. So, I think that's the way the league is right now. I think a lot of players especially aren't in shape. And we'll see defense, I think, become more, better throughout the year as offenses kind of tire down. But, good for the Titans. They won a close game. It was close. It was a 1-point game. But of course, Minnesota loses it. That's just Minnesota.
Week 3 is basically the point where if you're 0-3, it's almost impossible to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I actually have a stat for that. I think only 4 teams have ever made the playoffs since 1990 after an 0-3 start.
And the most recent...
The 92 Chargers, 95 Lions, 98 Bills, and 2018 Texans. And that is it.
With that Texans team, the Colts were abysmal, the Jaguars were abysmal, and the Titans were mediocre. The North now is a lot harder than that AFC South was in 2018. The Vikings, they're not going to come get back against the Bears. They're definitely not going to catch the Packers. So at this point, they're playing for the second wild card, and there are a lot better teams in the NFC than them. This almost basically sank their season right now.
Well, isn't there another wild card this year too? Isn't there
but I still don't even think they hit it. I still don't. I think they're the 4th team in the NFC North. They're probably on paper the most talented, but again, their franchise is quite literally held hostage by Kirk Cousins making $30 million a year. And it's a joke that anybody thought after Case Keenum led him to the championship game that Kirk Cousins was the answer.
The Vikings put up points. It's not like they're completely getting blown out of the water and the offense is anemic. They have been able to move the ball.
Yeah, in garbage time.
They've moved the ball.
Against a bad Titans defense. And last week they got all in garbage time.
The offense heavily relies on the ability of Dalvin Cook breaking off runs and loading the box up so Kirk Cousins can actually throw to a receiver who's not double covered.
Or they wait until they're down 14 and then Kirk Cousins starts throwing some really good balls. You know, that's what they are. They're not. They move the ball in garbage time. That's like how the Jags used to have a good offense when they were down 21.
Yeah. So the Vikings, though, it's panic time for the Vikings. 0-3. Titans, they are 3-0, but right now with what happened with COVID, who knows next time they'll play, and who knows how that'll impact their season. But we're always good for this once a year. It's a tie early in the season or late in the season. And the first tie of the year came with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles could have won this game, and they shot themselves in the foot and had to punt with like 10 seconds left in overtime because there was a false start that took them out of field goal range. And my God, the sky is falling in Philadelphia right now. Nothing is going their way.
I said before the season started, as one of my predictions, go back, run the tape, not sure which episode it is, but I said in one of the closing statements, I don't think the Eagles are going to be good this year. They can still probably win the division, but they're not a good team. They are injured. They are battered. Their defense is not good. Their line is terrible. They still – I don't understand how you have the worst receiving core in the league last year. You draft like the 6th best receiver in the draft and are just like, yep, that's it. We're done. There we go. It's all fixed.
Well, and then you take up
3 guys. You have 3 guys who only know how to run straight. Jalen Reagor, Marquise Goodwin, and Deshaun Jackson don't know how to run routes. They literally only know how to run straight. The only receivers they have on this team is Ertz and Goddard just got hurt.
Yeah.
They're not a good team.
They're not.
Philly has whiffed.
They're bad.
There's an article I was reading from an Eagles writer, and he literally breaks down all of the past 5 years draft picks from the Eagles. Not a single one of them has been a positive.
No.
Not one. Most of them are not even on the team anymore. They have not had a good draft pick. Just a good one in 5 years.
Yeah. Any Joe Burrow slander from you two fellas this week or no? Or are you gonna accept that he played a good game?
No, he played a good game, but it's just the main takeaway from this game is the ineptitude of the Eagles.
Yeah.
It's really that.
Absolutely.
Of course.
I mean, the Eagles, though, it's hilarious that they're only a half game out of first place, and
At 0-3.
They're 0-2-1.
0-2-1.
Sorry.
Don't be disrespectful. Got to respect the tie.
So there's a way the things the next 13 games they could win the division. It's not going to be easy. I still don't think they will, but the fact that they're in striking distance and after next week they could be in first place is like, whoa.
Does the inability of just having good teams and the ineptitude of all the teams across the East right now, is this the worst division in football that we've ever seen? Because the AFC South in like the prime Peyton Manning years was just absolutely abysmal as well. Does this almost rival that, or is it?
Yeah, but
worse?
Well, at least that had a dominant.
That had
team.
Peyton Manning. This has
like the AFC East with Brady for a lot of years was really bad, but also that's because of how good Brady was. Same thing with Peyton.
They had one quarterback to take the heat off of them.
Exactly. These are just all bad. Like it's all bad. And as talented as Wentz is and as good as I think he can be, he's got some Josh Allen mixed in there where he just makes these dumb throws.
Well,
he should have had at the end of this game like 3 interceptions. There were 2 times he threw it directly to Bengals players who dropped it.
Well, and
just right to him.
Well, I think he almost has PTSD from being constantly rushed every single play and having to run away from pressure and having to make a play and improvise.
That's great, right?
Because they have no offensive line.
But that's only this year. He's never had that before. He's had good lines. So I'm not going to have sympathy for him finally having a bad offensive line. Ben Roethlisberger had a bad offensive line for 8 years of his career. I mean, there are guys in the NFL that have never even had a good offensive line in front of them. Wentz has had it since his rookie year, and it's finally not that good. It's still it's not the worst line. There's still like worse lines out there. It's not a good line.
But they have no left side. They have no left side of the line.
Yeah. But you got to deal with that. Burrow
I know, I understand.
Burrow has no tackles.
No, I understand.
In the same game, Burrow is literally rushed from right to left at the snap of the ball.
He got obliterated one play, had to sit out a little bit, came back in. The very next play, got sacked again.
That was a talking point I wanted to bring up too. The Bengals O-line is going to get Burrow killed this season. He took
Andrew Luck.
The shot you're talking about. He was in pain for a while. Like, he was down, right?
Yeah.
And they're lucky he was able to, will his way back in, because if he takes a few more of those, he might not be coming back for a little bit then.
I know.
I think the Bengals' plan was to get Burrow, get him some wide receivers, some decent weapons, and then I think this year they're probably going to draft a lineman in the first round.
I hope.
Probably again in the third round. And probably are going to sign 2 or 3 linemen. So the line is a problem this year. That's without question. But I'm not worried about it for the full career, because unlike Andrew Luck in Indy, they never even tried to put a line around him. They said, screw it. We're going to just keep giving him receivers.
It took
Phil Dorsett.
It took them 7 years between drafting Anthony Costanzo to Ryan Kelly to have another first-round draft pick for an offensive lineman.
Yeah. So, and Ryan Kelly was pretty much already when Luck was on his way out at that point, which we didn't know.
No.
Exactly.
So I think the Bengals are going to be a lot more committed to protecting Burrow after this year.
Yeah.
But it is still scary for this year.
What I would have done if I were the Bengals, I would have brought in a veteran, a Fitzpatrick, a McCown, just somebody, right? Start them out, and if they're getting absolutely obliterated, hold off on Burrow till week 8 or 9, just to limit the potential damage to him. Protect him a little bit. I understand he's the first round, the first overall pick. You want to see him. He's the future of the franchise. You want to see him. But also, some self-preservation in the short term can pay off long term also.
They just didn't have options.
They could have found the quarterback if they tried. They could have gotten Blake Bortles or just somebody. They could have gotten someone to take the early unnecessary hits until they figured out how bad the offensive line really was without Burrow taking those hits.
Do you think they thought they could win games?
Well, they're probably looking at their stacked receiving core. Then their future first overall pick that's supposed to be insanely good, and probably thought, we can.
But even then, it's you're the rebuilding Bengals. Do you necessarily want to get, win games then? Obviously you want to it looks better in the record books and for, the new head coach. But at the cost of Burrow's long-term health, is it worth it then? To me, not really. Because, we saw what happened with Luck. Those early hits ended his career in, 8 years.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Well, you got to think that eventually Zach Taylor could be coaching for his job, or at least to stick around for a while longer.
No, and I agree. But, he's in his second year and you brought in a new quarterback. You should give him, some time. This isn't
absolutely. You should give him time.
This isn't the New York Jets we're talking about.
But if you have Zach Taylor already after a 1-15 season, and you tell him basically here's your quarterback, he's probably going to be okay, I have to start winning some games now. See what you got in Burrow. Game plan for Burrow, because there's no sense in losing games with your star young quarterback on the bench now.
No, I agree. But I'm just also saying,
why would Zach Taylor care about the long term of the Bengals? I mean, when he might not even be there after next year.
I agree, but also you would think upper management would tell him, don't get this kid killed also.
Upper management of the Bengals does not care.
I know.
It does not
upper
exist.
Management of the Bengals is a disaster.
Does not exist.
That's why they're the Bengals.
All right.
They kept what's his name, Marvin Lewis, there for, as long as I've been alive.
All right. Anything else on this game you want to touch on before we move along?
Nope.
All right. We got about 4 more games here, so let's just kind of blow through the 1:00 games. Patriots, Raiders. Patriots are legit. The
Patriots
offense.
Are fun to watch.
I can't believe I'm saying that. Also, the offense looks completely different now with Cam Newton than it ever has with Tom Brady. They're finally in the 21st century of the NFL.
They are missing a deep threat, though. They badly need a deep threat. They have no speed on that team, absolutely none. But other than that, they're a really fun offense. They're fun to watch.
I love it. I love Cam.
Him grounded, pounded up. The Patriots run game come back, because it was for a while they were the Patriots can't run the ball. What's going on? They absolutely exposed Las Vegas over there. And I think, on the offensive side of the ball, Derek Carr, it's so hit or miss. He's tough against a good defense. I don't trust him against an elite core like the Patriots have.
Yeah, the Raiders, they're still a few years out, but they have a lot of nice pieces around that team. I don't think Derek Carr will be the quarterback by the time they are legitimate contenders, but for right now, he's working pretty well in Gruden's system, and the offense is clicking for right now. And Josh Jacobs is a phenomenal running back.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he's a superstar.
But, this is the outcome I expected going into New England, because Gruden just has never been able to beat Bill. Not a lot of people have been able to consistently beat Belichick. That's why he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. But let's just shift gears real quick to Steelers-Texans. Steelers 28, Texans 21. Texans, another 0-3 team. The schedule makers were not favorable towards them.
They played 2 MVPs and a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Yep.
And arguably, 3 of the top 6 teams in the league. It's entirely not fair to them. My biggest takeaway, Steelers locked them the second half.
Yeah.
Absolutely just clamped them the entire second half. Texans couldn't move the ball whatsoever. Ben still looks good. Ben still looks like he's got enough left in his arm for another year or two. Steelers, I think, are the most dangerous team to the Ravens to unseat them for number 2 in the AFC. I think there is a hierarchy in the AFC, and I think it's Chiefs, Ravens, Steelers, Patriots, and that's the top 4. And I think you can rearrange them how you want, but I don't know. I think they are the most dangerous threat to Lamar and the Ravens, especially in their own division.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's
100%.
Basically, it's going to come down to how they play against each other is really going to decide that division.
Yeah.
If they split, who knows? But if whoever can win the head-to-head matchups, that's going to win the North. And the Texans, similar state to the Vikings right now. Their season's all but done. I don't think they're going on a 2018 run. And, the offensive line, it's killing this team. It's as simple as that. And the defense is just old.
Yeah, defense is old and not very good. And like you said, the line, it's not good. And you're going up against one of the best front sevens in the league. And it showed.
Yeah. And second to last game in the 1 o'clock hour, the 49ers with their C squad, JV, even freshman team, if we're being quite honest, beat the New York Giants 36-9. Oh, boy.
The Giants are really bad.
I'm sorry, Giants fans.
And Daniel Jones finds a new way every week to give up fumbles. Daniel Jones is like, as we've said before, he can make all the throws.
Yeah, he throws.
But it's all the in-between stuff that worries you. How much can he read a playbook? How much can he audible at the line? How much can he hot route? How much can he see defenses? Because right now he doesn't. Yeah, there are guys just coming at him that he doesn't even realize are blitzing. And it's hard to watch. He is getting destroyed. And the 49ers defense is banged up, by the way.
They don't have their best 2 pass rushers, and they don't have their top corner. Exactly. They don't have anybody.
And they made the Giants look like they play in, the AFL.
And on the flip side of things, this just credits to Kyle Shanahan of how well of a game planner and coordinator he is and scheming guys open, because he made Nick Mullins look like a freaking superstar out there, passing for over 300 yards, only 1 touchdown. But he was hitting everyone, and everyone was getting open for him.
It's crazy.
Now, I don't know if that's just the ineptitude of the Giants' defense, but Nick Mullins is probably one of the best backups in the NFL. And Kyle Shanahan,
that's why they keep bringing him back.
And Kyle Shanahan makes sure he's the most prepared quarterback, it seems like, week in and week out when he has to make a start.
The Giants. Williams, I can be happy with Dexter Lawrence, but outside of that, it is such a disaster in New York. Jason Garrett has regressed immensely as a coordinator. He is absolutely a disaster. I have no idea what to make of Joe Judge as a head coach, but obviously his discipline-first strategy did not work. And I mean, his violating labor laws and making people run laps is a disaster. And Patrick Graham, I give him all the credit in the world because he's kind of made this defense look like something, but at the same time, there's no talent. There's legitimately no talent on the defensive side of the ball. James Bradbury is a joke. The entire secondary is a joke. I'm done. There's not much you can say. Andrew Thomas is bad. He's just not good. And now he's injured, so it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So before we wrap things up, who's got just under 5 minutes, do you guys have any points you want to hit on for the Browns-Washington game or Thursday Night Football, Dolphins-Jaguars?
No.
Not really.
All right, cool, because we had some technical little glitches here and there, a little lag, but the recording kept going. So let's just say let's wrap this one up before my internet completely dies again. So Clark, where can
you
people
don't want
listen
to predict Thursday Night Football really quickly?
Yeah, because it's a great matchup of Jets Broncos.
It's gonna be a good game because they're two really bad teams.
Give me the Broncos.
Give me the Jets.
Jets.
This is bad. This is so
bad.
It's
so bad that it's going to be good because they're look competitive against each other.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an evenly matched game.
Exactly.
Jacksonville, Miami. All right.
Darnold should look great.
Jets.
Yeah.
Then
Jets.
just go with the
Again,
Jets.
3-1 against Justin. Justin's
worked out last time against Raiders Saints.
Yeah, it did.
Clark, where can people listen to us?
First I had to thank our lovely listeners for listening to this podcast because it means a lot to all four of us that you guys take your time to listen to us and interact with us and all that fun stuff. But subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Follow us on our social medias on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at @department_pod. Like I just said a minute ago, we love interacting with you. Let us know your favorite part of the show. Leave a comment, a 5-star review, anything. We love interacting with you guys. It's so much fun. But don't forget, we have a lot of stuff planned for this week. We have NBA Finals coming up, MLB playoffs coming up. We have Wrestling Recap. We have NXT TakeOver 31. We have so much stuff planned, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you in the next episode.